What's up? I'm here. I'm back. How you guys doing? Today's topic is going to be Kenny Omega hating on Logan Paul. Maybe I'm using strong language, but I'm using this strong language for a reason. So, Kenny Omega was on his, I don't know, some kind of live stream or something like that, where he decided I guess he was answering questions, listening to the chat, and Logan Paul came up and he made some comments, and I'm going to play those comments as soon as some people start to roll in. But that's today's subject, and we're probably going to read some of the responses too, just to make it easy for us to have some content. But I will say this: it's kind of a light criticism, and of course, as Kenny Omega tends to do, he sort of it was a milk toast kind of thing. He didn't come out as just straight hate, which some people usually does. He took his time with it. He thought it through. he placed his hate well. I'll say that. So let me check my audio really quickly, and then we'll get to the audio of this thing. He took his time with it. He thought it through. All right, so welcome everyone to the Thursday live stream. Hopefully everybody is doing well. My week is over. Now that I only work 4 days a week, my week is over, but I'm snowed in. There's nothing for me to do now. It's unfortunate. I guess I'll have to sit and read. I've been reading a book called The Rise of the Mafia, the definitive story of organized crime by Martin Short, who is apparently a British investigative journalist or something like that. I've already learned some very interesting things in that book. Maybe one day I'll take a sit down and we'll talk about it. But today's video is about Kenny Omega making some comments about Logan Paul. So we're going to play Kenny Omega's comments. I'm going to play them all the way through at first, and then I'm going to respond. I think the video is like a minute and some change. All right. So I want to give people the opportunity to hear it first, and then I'll respond to it.
Right there, Logan Paul's a fantastic wrestler. Great. I'm glad you think so, and I'm glad he's able to convince you such a thing. However, Logan Paul walk into New Japan and do a G1 where you have to walk in every night and have an actual banger? No, he absolutely could not. Is he going to get there between now and... I mean, it depends on his commitment level. And not only that, but it doesn't matter. No, he's clearly setting his roots down in WWE, and that's where he wants to succeed, and that's where he wants to be a star, and that totally makes sense. So for the WWE style and for what they're willing to do for him, give him time, allow him to grow, develop, and get more used to how get more familiar with his surroundings. Take the time to have him have everything up in here. Make sure that when it comes time to perform, what it is that they've rehearsed, what they've scripted, that he'll be able to pull it off as though he just showed up to the arena, like how the old timers did back in the day, the Terry Taylors and the Terry Funks. I don't know why I picked two people that were named Terry, but you know what I mean. It could have been anybody.
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews. There you go. Yeah.
All right. So I think this is hate. I think he's hating. Basically, he's saying that Logan Paul can't wrestle, that he memorizes his matches. And this is the same thing Ronda Rousey said. She said she wished she had all the time that Logan Paul gets to have matches, to prepare for matches. The amount of scripting and point-by-point presentation of the wrestling match, which we all know is true. That Logan Paul is not a traditional professional wrestler where he's going to, collar and elbow tie up and then, start calling it in the ring. Unfortunately, Kenny Omega isn't that guy either. So it's like the pot meets the kettle at this point. So I find it hard to believe that Kenny Omega is criticizing Logan Paul for his performances. Now, the chat was interesting because as I was listening to the video, I was looking at the chat, and the chat has some people who are very impressed with Logan Paul. Look, I say this: Logan Paul is a great athlete. Is he a great wrestler? No. I agree with Kenny Omega on the fact that Logan Paul is not a great wrestler because Logan Paul is not a wrestler. He is a performer. Okay. He doesn't call it in the ring. It's all pre-scripted. It's all pre-put together. That's kind of how a lot of matches are today. All right. A lot of people's matches are like that today, including a lot of the matches that feature the elite. You know, it's not just the high spots that they practice and go through over and over and over again. You know, and remember, the old guys, the real old guys, not Kenny Omega, you know, the real old guys were in the locker rooms with these fellas and mentioned this whole thing, that these guys are pre-scripted matches and pre-putting things together hours beforehand. They're doing rehearsals, which is also another issue that, you know, Mercedes Moné is another one. She does rehearsals. Randy Orton was doing rehearsals when he was younger. I think he kind of grew out of it, but these guys who are trying to act like they're, you know, Jerry Lawler in like 1970 something, it's crazy. This is nuts. No, Kenny, you are one of these guys just like Logan Paul, man. Great athlete, but everything you do is is predetermined. Every move in the match is predetermined. How do I know? Because you actually look at the guy, and the guy doesn't move. He doesn't do anything, right? When you do the little Terminator jump from over the top rope, the guy just kind of stands still like he was in, you know, like in Mortal Kombat, you know, whoa, finish him. And then he jumps over the top rope. Get real, man. This is absolutely pot meets kettle. So I want to go through this. I want to go through this comment again because I also want to read the chat. So as a way to sort of flesh this thing out. So here's what he said at first.
Right there, Logan Paul's a fantastic wrestler. Great. I'm glad you think so, and I'm glad he's able to convince you such a thing. However,
so he says, I'm glad you think so, and I'm glad he's able to convince you of such a thing. Because that's what wrestling is, of course. You know, wrestling is getting people, convincing people that you can fight, right? Or that this is a fight. And all these, you know, dancing guys who are now taking shots at Logan Paul is weird. This is absolutely pot meets kettle. Now, when you look at the chat, one of the guys in the chat for Kenny Omega's video says, Logan Paul has been surprising me. Yeah, everybody thinks so. There's a lot of people who are taken aback by Logan, how good Logan Paul is at what he's doing. All right. The fact that he really just started doing this, even rehearsing the matches, the fact that he can even remember them and make the stuff look sort of seamless, like it's not really all that rehearsed. It's pretty damn good, you know? Now, he's never really been put in a situation where it's sink or swim. True indeed. And he probably never will be. They're probably going to protect him and take care of him, and he won't have to work every single week, which is also what Kenny Omega is talking about. Like, oh, can he go to the G1 and have bangers? Which I'll address that when we get there. But there's a whole lot of guys that their matches are put together hours in advance, days in advance, and then they try to act like they're the real wrestlers. They're the real Graps guys. Like, ain't none of y'all Benoit or Angle or Eddie Guerrero, let alone, you know, goddamn, you know, Nick Bockwinkel. You know, like, who do you guys think you are? Like, I get it. You want to maintain some level of difference between guys like Logan Paul and guys like Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. And to me, there's not that much difference. All right. It's not a big enough difference for him to be making these comments. Let's play the next part.
Logan Paul walk into New Japan and do a G1 where you have to walk in every night and have an actual banger.
Okay, there's plenty of people who can't walk into a G1 and have an actual banger. For starters, most of the people in the G1 don't have bangers. Most people in the G1 suck. They're boring. They have boring matches, and they typically have the same match over and over again. You tell me, look, there's some entertaining guys in the that enter these tournaments, but their definition of what a great talent is, it does not meet my definition. For instance, Tomohiro Ishii. I don't like Tomohiro Ishii. I think every one of his matches is pretty much the same. They think he's great. I think he sucks. You know, I actually find more entertainment in a guy like Taichi and Toru Yano when they're in the G1 or something than I get out of Tomohiro Ishii. Right? When they had, guys like Hiroki Goto in the tournament. Hiroki Goto sucks. All right? Even if you can do the moves technically, there is still more to wrestling than being able to do the moves technically. Right? And these guys who are technically good, technically, put that in quotations, good, still are boring as shit and are not worth watching. So the idea that the G1 is the ultimate test because you have to have bangers. No, you don't. No, you do not. No, you don't. And plenty of people have sleepwalked through the G1. That's why anybody talk about the G1 last year? Not really. I think who won that thing? Was it the English guy? What's his name? I think he won the G1 last year. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. This is the cage match guy critiquing Logan Paul, who is crazy because, again, pot meets kettle. All of these guys do the same thing. Let's go back into his comment.
No, he absolutely could not. Is he going to get there between now and...
All right, so Kenny Omega's chat. One of them says Logan Paul is a great performer. And one of them says Logan Paul versus you would be great. That would give Kenny Omega an excuse to do what he does already. Now he's talking about is Logan Paul going to get to the point where he can go to the G1 and have bangers? He already knows the answer to this question. Okay, like he already knows the answer to this question. But no, and I don't think that is one of the things that he values, that he thinks is worth doing. Now he can't go to Japan anyway. You already know that, but because of the whole Suicide Forest thing, so he's not even allowed in Japan. But let's say that he was. Let's pick a different tournament. Let's say the 24 karat gold tournament over in Germany. I think it is, right? Can Logan Paul go over there and have good matches, back to back in a short amount of time? Not as good as he could have them now. I think that he'll learn enough, and he's athletic enough that he can get through 10, 15 minutes without it being, baby's first match. I think he can get through that. Is he going to be able to go out there and work 30 minutes, on the fly? Probably not. I don't think he might be able to do that. I think a good wrestler, somebody with some real talent, like a Kurt Angle or somebody like that, a Benoit or an Eddie Guerrero or a Shawn Michaels, they could probably pull 20 or 30 minutes out of Logan Paul. But a lot of these shitters that are on the internet and a lot of these shitters in the indies and a lot of these shitters in Japan, there's a lot of people who they think they're good wrestlers because folks on the internet are blowing smoke up their ass, but most of them aren't. They are not. We see through it. You're not believable. You're trash.
I mean, it depends on his commitment level, and not only that, but it doesn't matter. No, he's clearly setting his roots down in WWE, and that's where he wants to succeed, and that's where he.
That's all true what he's just saying, but Kenny Omega's chat says, very true. He couldn't do that. Well, yeah, of course he couldn't do that. People said the G1 would end the Logan Paul. The G1 would end like it's like a marathon or something like that. Like, do you know that there were guys here in the good old United States that worked hour draws multiple times a week? The G1 is not that tremendous, like there were guys like Flair and Harley Race and even Dusty that could go 60 minutes multiple times a week. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Dusty Rhodes could have pulled out a G1. I'm thinking Logan Paul could do fine. All right. No, he didn't have the same level of experience, but if he got the same level of experience, he'd be fine. The mark of being a good pro wrestler isn't how long your match has to be anyway. It's about whether people are enjoying the match, even if the match is 60 seconds. If people liked, the what was it 5 or 10 minutes that Brock Lesnar had with Daniel Bryan, people loved that match. The match with Brock Lesnar and I believe Finn Balor, it wasn't that long either. People liked that match too. Same thing with Brock Lesnar and Ricochet. It wasn't long. Brock and Goldberg's matches, hell, any Goldberg match usually doesn't go that long. And people typically went crazy for them. That, at the end of the day, is the important bit. Like a lot of these guys have never worked G1s. Flair has never worked a G1. Hogan has won one, by the way. Hulk Hogan. Mr. Nobody thinks Hogan can wrestle. He's won a G1. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not the benchmark you want to go with. Even the modern G1s aren't that great. So, Logan Paul is also a horrible person, which is hilarious.
That's where he wants to be a star, and that totally makes sense. So for the WWE style and for what they're willing to do for him, give him time, allow him to grow, develop, and get.
So here's the chat that I wanted to look at. Somebody says Logan Paul rehearses one match for months. Absolutely horrible. And then another one says he only works a few matches a year. He will not. Okay. Let's talk about this. Because he does rehearse his matches. We already talked about that, right? So does your boy that you're talking to. So does Mercedes Moné. So, and we also know that Diamond Dallas Page and Randy Savage scripted matches from beginning to end. DDP admitted that he did that. He even talked about presenting Undertaker with a script for the entire match, and Undertaker basically ripped it up. And and Ricky Steamboat talked about Randy Savage giving him a script for the WrestleMania 3 match, point by point of what to do. Now, is anybody going to say that Randy Savage is not a great wrestler? I mean, for that particular match, and for, I'm pretty sure other matches as well, he came out with an exact point-by-point thing he wanted to do. He had a vision. Shawn Michaels put together a match. With Ric Flair, he put together the match on a sheet of paper. He talked about it. Sat down and wrote the whole fucking match out. All right? This is, a lot of people do the thing that they're saying that Logan Paul is horrible because he does. Kenny Omega is not a work rate, let's call it in the ring guy. He's not. No, virtually nobody in AEW is, except maybe fucking Jeff Jarrett. He's 60. A lot of these guys have had much time to rehearse and walk through matches as possible so that they don't look like shit. Because today's style is different from the style 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you could just grab a headlock and you can hold that headlock for 2 or 3 minutes and nobody will chant boring. Nobody will care. Mike Rotunda will go in there and grab an arm bar and just hold it. Greg the Hammer Valentine just grab you on a chin lock and just hold it. And that'll be it. If you do that today, they'll call it a rest hold. There was no such thing as a rest hold until Dave Meltzer created it. Right? The idea that everything is supposed to be slam, bang, back-to-back spots, that stuff didn't start until recently. Right? If you have ever watched any matches from like the 70s or 80s, early 80s or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Guys will start slow and then they'll build some momentum into some of their slam bang, body slams, back body drops, all that kind of stuff. Today, they're starting matches with power bombs. They're starting matches with hurricanranas and Power Rangers fight scenes. And now they got the nerve, the audacity to be sitting here talking about Logan Paul rehearsing matches. You think Ricochet doesn't rehearse matches? I'm just going to start throwing names out there now, because I'm pretty sure all of them do, with the exception of probably a few, because they don't need to. I don't think Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are going to sit here and have a full rehearsal of a match. It's not required. But all these spot monkeys, Will Ospreay, Omega himself, Ricochet, Swerve, Adam Page, hell yeah, MJF, hell yeah, they walking through these matches. Hell yeah, you got to be kidding me. I'm watching the matches and I can tell that they've been rehearsing this stuff. Get real.
More used to how he used to get more familiar with his surroundings. Take the time to have him have.
All right, so somebody said, I think he said says Logan wouldn't be able to survive the G1. And then it says Logan Paul rehearsed one match for months. I talked about that. Logan Paul, a good wrestler, bad person. Logan Paul is a good gymnast and actor. This is from Kenny Omega's chat. He's a good gymnast and actor. I'm looking at Kenny Omega here. Right? Like, okay. But then again, who else are we talking about here? AJ Styles is a good gymnast, too. He was literally a gymnast, if I remember correctly. Anybody who works that sort of cruiserweight style, especially if you're not Mexican, you likely have been rehearsing this shit for months or over and over again in a gym trying to perfect this one move so that you can bust it out in the middle of a match. And then you're going to work it in. You're going to tell your opponent, yeah, I want to do this. I've been trying this thing out. That's the Liv Morgan method. She posts videos of herself trying things out over and over and over again, and then you see it in a match. You're like, oh, okay, she prepared. I mean, just got to give up the ghost on this, man. You're not going to convince me to dislike Logan Paul or to disregard his work when I'm looking at everybody do the fucking same thing. All these guys are doing the same thing. So, get lost.
Everything up in here. Make sure that when it comes time to perform,
his chat says Logan is a good wrestler, but he is a WWE guy. He won't be able to wrestler outside of that bubble. I don't think he wants to. Why would he want to wrestle outside of the bubble of WWE? Even when you had Ronda Rousey, when Ronda Rousey discussed her stint in wrestling, she talked about how much she loved and how much fun the first match she had, because she had so much time to rehearse. And then she got put on the road, and all that rehearsal time got cut in half, and her matches weren't that good anymore. And she started to complain and say, well, shit, all these guys have all this rehearsal time. I want to rehearse. Lady, listen, I get it. I understand. You see a bunch of other people doing it. And then if that's how they started you in the business, to make sure you don't fuck things up, they gave you a couple of spots to do. And you're like, oh, that worked. Let's just keep doing that. But like, yeah, that's not day in, day out stuff. You can't work every Monday Night Raw and then a bunch of house shows like that. Like, it just, it doesn't work like that. It don't work like that. Somebody says, nope, Logan Paul can only be produced through a PC training camp. Okay, that's fair enough. Because I know that's where he spends most of his time putting together his matches. They're going to end up doing that for Jade Cargill, too, probably.
They've rehearsed what they've scripted, that he'll be able to pull it off as though he just showed up to the arena, like, you know, how the old timers did back in the day.
Here's another one. Logan is amazing doing some stuff in the ring as a professional wrestler. That's a very interesting way of putting it. Logan Paul versus Ishii. Book it. Yeah, if you want to put both all of us to sleep, sure.
The Terry Taylors and the Terry Funks. I don't know why I picked two people that were named.
All right. Let's go into some of the. This was quoted by an account. An AEW fan account. Let's talk to you guys first, and then we'll get into these folks. Because Kenny Omega, as far as I'm concerned, he's hating, and it's certainly the pot meets the kettle. Hypocrisy of Kenny Omega talking like he's one of the boys. He's talking like he's from 1976, like he's Luthez or something. Like, no, get out of here. Of course, you can't forget Will Ospreay. He says Travis Tippin says Logan Paul better than most indie wrestlers. He usually is. Now, indie wrestlers are typically not that great. I mean, the talent in the indies are not nearly as good as it used to be. Part of that is because both WWE and AEW are signing up pretty much anybody who has even a modicum of talent. If somebody even shows a sliver of promise, they usually get a contract from one of these companies. So the indies are kind of suffering because of that. But a lot of these people are getting contracts before they're even ready, and I'm not Triple H. You're not ready. That's not what I mean. I mean is they barely got their feet wet in the world, and they already got a contract. Guys like Javon Evans, like I like Javon Evans, but he's 19 or something like that. Like, let him get another year or two under his belt. I get it. You want to snatch him before AEW does and all that stuff, but he's a kid. Like, how long do you want to keep this guy in the system? 8 years, 9 years? It's the same thing with Austin Theory. Like he was a pretty good prospect when they brought him in. He hadn't been wrestling that long. And now they've got him simmering in the back because, well, we don't want to get rid of him. He's a good prospect. But we want to, smooth out some of the edges. But we also don't want to put him out in free agency because if he gets snatched up somewhere else, it'd be more expensive to get him later. That's kind of how the business is being run now. So you have a bunch of people getting snatched off the indies when they probably do need the reps. They likely do need to go and work in some tournaments, and they need to go and do some other things. But then you have people who were on the indies for a long time and they still suck. They're just as good as they're going to get. That's the unfortunate bit. AJ3 says, would the G1 be even more boring if Bret the Hitman Hart in his prime competed in it? No, because if Bret was in his prime, he'd have good matches with pretty much anybody. Now those matches would have to be like 30 minutes because that's what the G1 is all about, is having 45-minute quote-unquote bangers. But I think that would wear him out. But I think Bret was in good enough condition to do it. I certainly think he could do it. Okay. WG Phil says, why do they care if someone is a good, quote, human being? Like, dude, we don't know these people to judge. We don't know enough about these people to judge. Oh, look, Logan Paul, there's enough to say he's a scumbag, at least. The scam stuff, the Lunchley stuff. There's some things out there about Logan Paul that'll make you laugh, in terms of him not being the best person in the world. But ultimately, he's not like a child molester or anything like that. So I don't care. Everybody has their foibles. I've said this before, but he's a YouTuber, and his job was to get attention. That's what they're good at. Him and his brother are really good at jumping out the window and getting attention. Back in the day, these guys would have been, doing jackass stunts, stapling their balls to their forehead or whatever, because that's the business. That's the business of streaming. You just had that one kid, he challenged Sha'Carri Richardson to a foot race, like on the spot. And like, why would you do that? She's not going to race you. Like on the spot too. Like, she's not going to race you, bro. But that's the stuff that they do to get attention. We've talked about this before. So that the Paul brothers are good at getting attention. And in the hunt for people's attention, you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to piss people off. That's part of it. These guys always have to push, and then eventually you push too far. AJ3 says, can you imagine if WWE signs Kai Cenat? Will that piss off the AEW fan base even more? Sign him for what? Sign him to do what? Maybe co-promote WWE? That dude takes showers on stream. That's weird. That's really weird stuff. He says Logan could at least generate heat. That is true. That is true. And that's the benefit of it. Is that Logan Paul's he's a tall guy. He's pretty well built. He's a heat magnet, and people want to see him get beat up. At the end of the day, he's perfect. Like, even if he couldn't do all the athletic shit, just being willing to put his body on the line, knowing that people genuinely hate him, is a good thing. That means he can get heat. And that's what matters. At the end of the day, and if it's real heat, then it's real heat. I'm pretty sure a lot of the old guys would prefer it if it was real. They don't want it to be Bruiser Brody real, but they want it to be real. You probably need to start the video over. But yeah, he's a hater for sure. D-Mac says the rest are journeymen. People on the decline are guys without next level potential. Yeah, that's pretty much the indies right there. Timothy Thatcher's and fresh-faced guys that's been around for 2 years. And it's like, wow, everybody in the middle gets snatched up by either WWE or AEW. They get sent to Ring of Honor or they get sent to TNA. One or the other. Not TNA, but NXT. One or the other. Even TNA is not really getting a lot of these guys. I've been complaining for years about TNA's roster. Like, all of their rosters, like, mostly guys who within the next couple of weeks going to have gray in their beards. Stone Mexican says, I always thought Brett was funny. That El Dandy promo was a classic. He was funny, but like not on purpose. Yeah, the funniest thing is how all the Lucha guys got upset that Brett used El Dandy as kind of like a joke. And they're like, El Dandy's better than Bret Hart. I'm like, oh God, you don't have to go that far, okay? Whatever. That could very well be the case. But guess who will never know? Like, I'm not going back into the history of Lucha Libre, even though I know it's not that old. It's like in the 90s. I'm not going back that far. Sorry. It says, imagine Kurt Angle in the G1. Who, Peak Angle, or what they used to call Perk Angle, aka BKA Perk Angle. Oh boy, he went ape shit. And who knows, man? If you'd have put him in there with some good talent, he might have had a really good run in Japan. Stone Mexican guy's teenage nephew only started to watch wrestling because of Logan Paul. He loves him. Oh, wow. Kai to wrestle for WWE like Logan. I don't think that's a good idea. Cross-face races. Do you think Kenny Omega could get over in WWE? Yeah, I think the fan base would force it. The internet fan base would not let him fail. Now, would the casuals, become attached to him? Maybe, but the hardcores is going to push you forward, and the hardcores, won't let you fail. That's kind of what happened with like AJ Styles and Punk and Bryan. Even when the company wasn't doing much with them, the hardcores never gave up, and the hardcores would never give up. D-Mac says, I ain't gonna lie, I fuck with El Dandy. I just don't watch enough of that stuff, man. I will occasionally watch an old AAA match or an old CMLL match or something like that, but it's not often. It's not certainly not often enough. And if I am going to watch it, it's going to be like a hair versus hair or a hair versus mask match or something like that. Perk angle versus hair angle. Who's winning? Oh, peak angle is top level, top shelf. Yeah, I saw them try to lie about this halftime performance. It was mid. It was extremely mid. Now let's get into some of the responses to this video because I want to try to stretch this thing out to at least an hour. I want to try to find some ones that are not just people being tribal. So this guy says no one can pull up to G1 and have a banger because no one watches that trash. Kenny's a mark for his own nonsense. No one with an income gives a shit about New Japan. No one. That's strong, brother. I'm not going to say that. And I was trying to avoid the tribal ones, but this one just jumped right at me. I couldn't avoid it. I think New Japan has a healthy fan base in the United States. They have to, because most of the people who watch wrestling in the United States, they watch WWE. The small number of people who are extremely dedicated to like the Indies and Mexico and Japan and all that kind of stuff, they watch New Japan, almost all of them. I haven't seen anybody who watches like, Stardom and all that kind of stuff and doesn't watch New Japan, But everybody has like their specialties or things that they prefer to watch. And I do think that there's people out there who podcast for a living and, blog for a living and that kind of stuff. They love New Japan. So I'm not going to say nobody cares. I would say it's not a significant enough number to make a financial difference, let's say. All right, the next one says, why would he need to prove himself in the G1, though? To prove he can wrestle, he works for the biggest promotion in the world, and he puts on great matches. He's not stealing a spot because everything he does goes viral online, and that draws in viewers and Logan fans. That's a good point. He would have to be at a certain level where either he doesn't want to wrestle anymore, but I don't see that Logan Paul is going to get to the I'm just a wrestler, bro. So if I get fired from WWE, I'm going to go work the circuit. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen at all. I think if he gets canned from WWE, he's done wrestling. He may get offered some money from AEW to do it, and he might, but I don't see him having like a full-blown career being a pro wrestler. He's lying to everybody saying that he's a full-time wrestler. He's lying, all right? He's not. Because he said he was going to be full-time before the Royal Rumble. And he didn't appear until the Royal Rumble. So I'm telling you, he's probably John Cena full-time. But that is what it is. The next one says, what would going to New Japan and having a banger mean at all, though? It gets you nowhere if you're already at that level. Like Logan has feuded with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns already. Is currently in a chamber match with Punk. Am I missing something? Yeah, you're missing that the internet wrestling fans, they value that G1 experience. That's what they value. They still are gassed up over Carl Anderson having a good G1 run in like 2011. That stuff lasts forever, I guess. Because I heard about that and didn't care about it. Like these sorts of things matter to them. They don't matter to me, though. Remember, they were super gassed about Jon Moxley working at G1. I don't remember anybody who was gassed about it afterwards, but they were really excited, let's say. Here's another one that says, I mean, he's not wrong at all, but all the Logan Paul hate from wrestlers comes off as jealousy. To be honest, and I hate Logan Paul the person, but Logan Paul the wrestler is very entertaining to me. Is Logan Paul a great wrestler? Maybe not, but he's a great performer. I agree with Kenny. He couldn't go and do a G1, and he'll never be asked to. He's a perfect fit for the company he's in. I think that's a great response. It's a very fair response. Somebody says, I've been saying this about Logan Paul. People acting like he's better than the whole rosters of people who do this night in and night out. and have for years at a high level is wild. Well, a lot of the people you think are night in, night out wrestlers, they're once a week guys now. How about that? MJF had his first match with Dustin Rhodes. What was the match before he had that? It was at least 3 weeks, right? He hadn't had a match in 3 weeks. At least 3 weeks. Before his match with Dustin, he had not had a serious match in at least 3 weeks. It's not as big a chunk of time missing as Logan Paul's time, but it ain't much different. CM Punk has had 2 matches on Raw since he returned. 2. And both of those were this year, right? So not everybody's a night in, night out guy. Seth Rollins is a night in, night out. Pretty much wrestles every week guy. That's Sami Zayn thing. Cody doesn't even wrestle every week. There's a lot of guys that in today's pro wrestling landscape, they work once a month at the most. They may work house shows, but those are light comparison to like big main events and stuff like this, which is typically what they're talking about. But the AEW guys only work once a month. Once a week. And even then, most of them don't even wrestle that once a week. So you got that going for you at least. Somebody says, bro only wishes he was in Logan Paul's position in the top wrestling company in the world with a crowd worthy of performing in front of and having bangers on random episodes of Raw with Rey Mysterio, who is wrestling royalty at the end of the day. I think Kenny Omega wants to wrestle Rey Mysterio, and I think he has wrestled Rey Mysterio before. Let's look and see if there's going to be some more interesting ones. It says, New Japan's isn't the work rate standard for everyone. For some, it's just another place to work to keep their name afloat. I know he has to take up for his boy Hangman, but Logan Paul has the intangibles of a main event talent, and half of that has zero to do with in-ring work. I agree. People naturally disliking him. It's like being over with the audience is 90% of the work. If you're over, you can be a manager. You can just stand there and get beat up, and you don't have. It's an easy night for you. He has disgust is a feeling. People are disgusted by Logan Paul sometimes. And that's good enough because people want to see him get beat up. So when he wins, that creates a perfect dichotomy in the pro wrestling landscape. Like there was already people mourning Rey Mysterio because he lost to Logan Paul again. They were legitimately upset. Like he's 0-3 versus that YouTuber. I'm like, yeah, it might be the case. This is an interesting one. This is interesting because I think it highlights the division in logic, psychology, and just business outlook that's formed in wrestling. You listen to old timers, they love Logan Paul and his work, but there's also critics of the idea that, quote, banger night after night style matches. The only person that I've seen that's kind of older that has put over Logan Paul is Jim Cornette. I don't listen to a lot of older guys, but I don't think Disco and Conan have ever dissed them. I think they have put him over too, and they're kind of hard to please in terms of work and all that kind of stuff. But there's not a lot of people that I listen to, so I can't say that for sure that that's something that a lot of people are buying into. But I haven't heard anybody say he was the shits. Everybody just says his matches are rehearsed, which is true. But so is Will Ospreay's and Ricochet's and Swerve's and Hangman's and Omega's and so many other guys. There's a bunch of guys rehearsing matches. That's the thing nowadays. That's how guys have been working since 2008? Maybe even before that? I mean, it just is what it is. It's hard to get away from some of these people who are just like Logan Paul fans, which is weird because I don't think he has a lot of fans. I think people hate him more than anything. Here's the one. It says, there's a part in there where Kenny said, quote, if WWE would give him time to grow. Perhaps he's growing in his training away from the cameras, but I would like to see him wrestle more. So far, I think all of his matches are good. Yeah, I don't think Logan Paul has had a bad match yet, you know? But it's clear that he builds his matches around spots, which is, you know, some people do that, but his spots are kind of like, there's more of them, I guess you could say. But he's definitely putting in the work. He's not coming in, you know, shitty and, you know, it's hard for me to diss him because I see that he's at least putting in the work. He's putting in the effort. You know, he's busting his ass. I appreciate that. Especially years and years of celebrity wrestlers that didn't give a fuck and didn't improve at all. You know, he's actually improving. He's getting better. What a deluded fuck knuckle. No one gives two flying shits about G1 and bloody Japan. It's called working smart and staying fresh and making money. Dipshit. That's crazy. That's crazy. That man ain't did nothing. He's hating for sure, but he ain't did nothing to avoid to deal with all that. Now let's look at some of the quotes to this. This is a pretty good subject. This is better than I thought it was going to be. Let's look at what you guys have to say. X9 says Logan Paul is an 8 out of 10 wrestler. Ain't nothing with that. 8 out of 10? That would be 8 out of 10. Let's go. I'll go 7. AJ3 says Logan Paul getting beat up is what the heat is for. People to see these indie wrestlers like Kenny and Will and Kevin are not going for heat. They're going for comedy and reactions. Yeah, like you want something that sticks to the ribs that people are going to remember. And I think that performers like Johnny Knoxville have shown you that you can take a guy with limited wrestling experience, throw a bunch of hoo-ha and, you know, sparkling lights and stuff in a match, and you can get through it. And Sami Zayn was a genius when they were getting him through that match. They have proven time and time and again. You know, Lawrence Taylor, they've proven time and time again that they could take somebody with no previous experience and get you through a main event match. Even if it's just one, they can get you through it. But to do it as spectacularly as Logan Paul suggests that Logan Paul has talent. Maybe he did not think to, you know, get into this until he was 25 or something like that, which I think is when he started in WWE. But there's a natural element to it, you know, and his history of already being famous really helps because it means people already have a precondition to either like or dislike him, which is the hard part about wrestling, is getting people to care about you one way or the other. He was famous already, so he had that prejudice. Either people was, you know, interested in liking him already, or people already hated him, and that did the hard part for him. You know, the Suicide Forest and all that shit did the hard part for him, and he got hated. So many wrestlers go through their entire career and nobody gives a shit about them at all. You know, no matter how many times they jump off cages, no matter how many times they bleed all over the place or fall all over the place, nobody ever cared. But the hard part is getting people to care. WWE TNA Full says Shane McMahon used to get kudos for jumping off high stuff every couple of months in random hardcore matches. Logan Paul putting in work and still gets shitted on for being a quote-unquote bad person. Yeah, Shane McMahon is another good example. Now, I don't know how rehearsed Shane's matches were, because I know that they took pretty good care of Shane. But Shane is another non-wrestler who could have good matches. Again, Shane McMahon had AJ Styles' best match. And AJ Styles has worked with Edge and Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania. His best match was with Shane McMahon. You know, Shane was another one. he was preternaturally talented, even though it seems like he had no business being there. There was a prejudice towards liking or not liking him. Him being aligned with Vince and being his son naturally made it easy. You know, there was a natural reaction. You hate Vince, you hate Shane. And then Shane starts doing athletic shit, and that's surprising. It takes you back. And then he starts doing dives. And you're like, holy shit, he don't need to do this stuff. And next thing you know, he becomes a beloved performer, and everybody loves Shane. And there's still some people who bristle at the idea of Shane McMahon being a good wrestler. Because they're like, oh, he sucks. All he do is jump off stuff. Well, maybe. All I can tell you is I enjoyed most of the Shane McMahon matches I've seen. Most of them. Not all, but most. X9 says, I'd rather take advice from Omega than hangnail or pockets or buckaroos. Well, I don't think he's giving advice. He's mostly critiquing. But I would certainly rather listen to him than those other guys too. WG Phil says, you think Kenny regrets re-signing with AEW, knowing his boys like the Bucks or Hangman wouldn't get signed? Now he's wasting the twilight years of he could be facing AJ Styles at WrestleMania 41. I don't actually. I don't think Kenny Omega ever wanted to come to WWE. If he wanted to come, he'd have came. You know, I don't think it all hinged on the Bucks and Omega. I do think that played a part because they all made this pact to sign together. That played a part, but I think that Kenny Omega had his experience in WWE in the developmental system, and he didn't like it. And he's like Sting a lot. He not sure, kind of queasy about how WWE would use him, present him, etc. And he had a preset fan base in AEW that are not going to ask him to change anything and is already familiar with him. Similar to when, Sting went to TNA. A lot of those fans were lapsed WCW fans. And when Sting came in, he didn't have to work. He didn't have to do much of anything. He just had to sit there, soak up the money. And that's all Kenny Omega has to do. Sit there and soak up the money. And now, if he wanted to work WrestleMania or something like that, he can still do it. I don't think these guys are going to be around much longer. So I think if Omega wants to have a match or two at WrestleMania, I think that Triple H will make it happen for him. But I don't think he's going to regret it. He probably made a bank doing this stuff. He didn't have to do any extra work. D says, I just got here. What I gather is that from the chat is Kenny is hating on Logan Paul, I assume. Yes. His critique of Logan Paul is kind of unfair, considering that he does the same thing. The Degenerate Sharingan says, I mean, wrestling every day of the year kind of fuck you up, don't health up, don't you think? Yeah, I mean, I don't suggest anybody wrestle every day. I don't suggest that. Taking back bumps and stuff every day, I don't suggest it. But the old guys used to do that stuff all the time, even though they spent most of their time traveling. They would work a lot, sometimes twice a day. These guys today, man, who are, wrestling once a week, if that, today's schedule is way too lax. WG Phil says Moxley went to G1 and had to call up WWE for health coverage despite crying about them being a prison. Is that what happened? The Generation Sharingan says, I understand that 2011 was not a long time ago, but 2011 was a long time ago. It was 14 years ago. I remember that shit. It's crazy. D-Mac says he's not a Logan Paul fan like that, but the dude is entertaining and picked up wrestling pretty well, considering it's not his full-time thing. I agree. I actually agree with that. I think the fact that he was able to put forth that kind of effort and have the kind of matches that he's having, especially if you grade him on a scale, and that's, I mean, not a scale, but like on a curve, meaning that he's not a trained pro wrestler. He's a celebrity that got into wrestling, and I think that he's going to try to work to become one of the boys and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. He's got a couple of more years to earn that tag, I think. But I like Logan Paul's matches. I like the way that they build them up. I like, the psychology of his matches. They're pretty sensible. Again, it's easy to get into because usually he's the most hated person in the match. He's never had to work with somebody and had to get them over, though, which is going to be the sort of the situation is he going to be able to work to get other people over? He's going to have to work an extended amount of time as babyface in order to really get over with me. As a heel, it's easy. He's basically The Miz. Everybody hates The Miz. Nobody expects anything out of him. So anything that he does can be impressive. And that's similar to how Logan Paul has had the first year or two of his career is nobody expects anything out of him and everybody hates him. So it was easy to impress people at that point. Whether he can get this thing over as a babyface and, work different kinds of psychology, like, working from underneath, or heavens to Betsy, they decided to make him a dominant babyface, which or a passionate babyface, a fiery babyface. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think he's a lifetime career heel. And that's okay too. That's fine. Another comment says, so in the replies, are WWE fans working in the sales and merchandise department for them? Who gives a fuck about who sells the most merch and makes the most money? Those idiots aren't pro wrestling fans. They only care about popularity contests. Okay, I mean, I understand that, but ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a business, and business is business, and that stuff is that stuff. Business is business. You bump for money. That's your job. You fall on your back for money. The more money you make doing it, I guess that denotes how good you are at it. Another one says Logan Paul is doing pro wrestling as one of his many side hustles, and he's still better at it than a lifelong pro wrestler in Kenny Omega. Must be such a hard reality for Kenny to deal with. No one cares about New Japan, by the way. You don't need to prove yourself in the little leagues. Now, here's the interesting bit. Kenny Omega quit WWE Developmental because he didn't want to go through that program and and prove himself. So he went somewhere else and proved himself. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. My thing is, everything is not for everybody. That's clear. So also, I don't really want to get in the habit of calling New Japan the little leagues. They can run a dome show and get 40,000 people in the go. That's not the little leagues. All right. Come on. We got to stop that. I'm not really a big, New Japan lover, but the Tokyo Dome is a big fucking building, man. It's a big building, right? One of these Wrestle Kingdom shows is like 5 Bound for Glories combined. It's like as big or not bigger than most WrestleManias. It's a big building, dog. And they can fill it up. So chill, chill. I can say that it's not on the same level in this country, where it's the country that that we live in, that is home to the biggest professional wrestling company in the world. But I wouldn't consider AAA the little leagues. I wouldn't consider CMLL the little leagues. I wouldn't consider New Japan the little leagues. They're smaller companies, but they're not like the minors or anything like that. Like the minors is like Hog is the minors. Superstars of wrestling, or what are the future stars of wrestling is the minors. The indie Defy is the minors. That kind of stuff that don't have TV. That stuff is the minors. Even a second tier company like a Pro Wrestling Nowhere or something like that, if they were able to get hot, they could probably regularly do a 10 to 12,000 people. That's a lot of people. But GCW ain't never going to do 10,000 people in the building. It's never going to happen. You know, like that's a minor league. Okay. TNA has been on the outskirts. It's like Pluto, where it's enough like the minors to just be a minor, but it's also too big to be a minor. Another one says it's ironic when people want to try and call folks like Ricochet or the Butt spot monkeys when that's the very definition of Logan Paul. He memorizes his handful of spots, then fucks off to YouTube for 6 months. And that's fine by him. He doesn't care. He's here for the money. I already put all these people in the same boat. My thing is, Kenny Omega is not the guy to be calling this out, considering he does the same thing. Next is the last part is key. I don't think people glazing him as this natural talent realize how rehearsed and scripted his matches are. He's a glorified spot monkey, and he's great at that, sure, but he hasn't shown to be a great wrestler. I don't see Kenny Omega out there, you know, grappling with anybody, doing old hold, counter hold. He's not doing that. You know, like none of his matches look like anything that Greg Valentine or Ronnie Garvin was involved with. So you're gonna have to let that one go. This one. Oh my God, I got cut off. My bad. Logan's a star and an attraction. He doesn't need to wrestle every week to draw eyes to himself. Yeah, that's what he's got podcasts and all that stuff for. Somebody says, so let me get this straight. Omega comes into the FGC, uses them, doesn't speak up when pedos are in the community. Alex almost quits. Now the two are together like nothing happened. What's going on here? Who are we talking about? I don't know. Oh no, not Mr. McFingerbang. McFingerbang trying to trash a YouTuber who has genuinely tried to become better at his craft and is legitimately one who I have changed my opinion on. This guy wrestled a sex doll and a child. How can anyone take this idiot seriously? Oh my goodness. What's happening to the audio? Let me check the audio. What's happening to the audio? Has the audio improved? Hello? Hello? All right. Hello? Is that better? Is that better? All right. Hello? Oh shit! What the hell happened here? What the hell happened to my audio? Ugh. I got ate by robots. Ugh. I got ate by robots. Okay, there we go. Ugh. I got ate by robots. All right, it sounds like it's fixed now, right? Now I didn't drop the goddamn thing. What is going on, man? It sounds like it's fixed now, right? All right, so I can hear myself. It's pretty. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's get back to this thing. Somebody says I'd do anything to have Kenny Omega in WWE. I wouldn't. I mean, he can stay where he is, man. He should be like Sting. He should just retire without coming to WWE. Somebody said I just realized why Kenny Omega can never draw money. I don't. Oh, they posting pictures of him shoving his fingers in people's asses. Oh Lord, I didn't need to see that today. I don't need that. Here's another one. Logan is gifted and athletic, but he's a spot monkey. He's not capable of long-term storytelling, great in-ring chemistry, or managing a story in the ring. The difference in talent between someone like Kenny and Logan is astronomical. It's not as astronomical as you think. I will say that those are our weaknesses because he doesn't have to do that. You know, again, the Logan Paul psychology is that he's a shitter who is a YouTuber who has no business competing with a lot of the guys that he can compete with, and he cheats, which works. That's his narrative. I don't think he's going to ever be able to do anything other than that. You know, like, but as long as it works, I'm fine with it. I might watch a Logan Paul match tonight, as a matter of fact. Shit. I kind of want to watch his match against Cody again. Shit. Exactly why are people upset? Kenny called Logan good and everyone upset about his New Japan comments. Hardly, if ever, acknowledged New Japan. No, I just think that people are frustrated that he was just not give the guy credit, but instead saying, "Oh yeah, he's good at making you think he can wrestle, but all his stuff is rehearsed and he couldn't do this stuff in Japan," which is hate. You know, like that's a backhanded compliment. You know, but I'm pretty sure that Logan Paul's okay with it. I think he's okay with it. Somebody says a lot of folks see this as a dig at Logan, and I don't see it that way. If anything, it's a mini essay about what Logan is good at, what he couldn't do, but how that's okay because he's in a great spot where he doesn't have to. I mean, he even says basically, who knows what Logan could be capable of in a few years. I think Kenny would be the first to tell you what he's good at, what he's not, including the WWE 8-minute or so match style. It's not a slam on WWE. It's just a different way things are done. That's fair. That's an actual fair comment. I think that's a fair comment. Someone says, so Logan can realistically do G1. I know this dude is a natural athlete, but there is a difference between that and doing a month-long tournament with nothing but bangers. As long as he does better than Tongaloa, I guess. The fact that you even remember that Tongaloa was in that thing, why is that a requirement? You know, so I'm saying, like, the idea that everybody has to have some kind of consensus that you're having great matches in these silly tournaments when you have Tongaloa in the tournament is ridiculous. You know, apparently being a great wrestler does not qualify you for the G1 because Bad Luck Fale and all these kinds of people have been in there. Jeez. I'm glad he's able to convince you it's a low-key jab. Yes, that's why I'm calling him a hater. You know, because it is a jab. It's full of jabs, actually. They're just very nice jabs. Somebody said the comments on this post proves my theory that wrestling fans are more likely to have CTE than the actual wrestlers. I'm trying to get away from all these so and so just sucks kind of comments. I don't think those are helpful. If you think Logan Paul is a better wrestler than Kenny fucking Omega, then go fuck yourself. I don't even want to have this conversation with you. Like, honestly, go fuck yourself. You're not a wrestling fan. You're just not. That's literally just putting your fingers in your ears and and wobbly wobbly. You know, that's crazy. I don't think that there should be a comparison between the two. I've liked some Kenny Omega matches. I've liked some Logan Paul matches. I'm just saying that they're similar, you know, and a lot of it is due to a lot of these guys are naturally athletic and they want to show off that athleticism. And that leads to them building their matches around spots. That's what it is, you know. And That doesn't apply to just Logan Paul and Kenny Omega. It also applies to Ricochet. It applies to the Real Ospreay. It applies to a bunch of other people. So it's okay. You know? So people in the comments are interpreting what he said as a dig, but I don't think it was. Logan looks like he's thinking about the move sometimes, which is okay because he's new. The in-ring psychology will come to him more time, I guess. Well, yes, you could. I see people thinking through matches all the time. I don't notice that a lot with Logan Paul. I notice it mostly with people in NXT and with a lot of the women. I see them, thinking about what they're supposed to do next because they don't know how to make it look fluid. So it comes across as being quite brutal. And people like Cora Jade and Shotzi are two of the biggest ones that jump out at me in terms of their stuff does not look fluid. It looks like they're thinking their way through the match. Gigi Dolan as well. So you could throw her on the barbecue. And there's plenty of other people, and but I've been digging on the AEW talent a lot. Just pick up some WWE talent for a little bit. A lot of them are thinking through their matches, and you could see it. But you could also see it when the guys are turning around to make sure that you're still there. Like Darby Allin, when he's going to do his jump off the top of the thing, he's going to make sure you're still there first. Swerve, when he takes forever to do that foot stomp because he wants to, I got to make sure I'm balanced. You're not going to move, are you? Like, come on, man, get real. There's a lot of stuff that people are doing that you could tell they're doing rehearsed shit, but it's okay. That's the way that wrestling is now. I think I changed my mind about watching a Logan Paul match. I think I'm not going to watch something really old. I think after this, I'm probably going to go and watch something from the 70s. I do kind of want. I was reading an old wrestling magazine online. I should post it. I should post it in Discord. I don't know if WWE has this match. I'm pretty sure they do. But I think I want to watch. When Superstar Billy Graham won the belt. I kind of want to watch that all of a sudden. I don't know why. I'm trying to find some more comments. Kenny Omega is a modern day GOAT. Somebody says, don't give a fuck about Logan Paul, but love how Kenny Omega basically goes real wrestler step in a New Japan ring. Just totally big lead the company he's currently employed in for no reason. That's a really good point. That's a good point. But all right, so we've been talking about this shit for an hour. I think he's a hater, but it's not that I think that he's a bad guy or anything like that. I just think that the way he approached this question was from a perspective of taking a shot at Logan Paul. I think that was pretty much it. X9 says Bad Luck Fale is so bad that it makes Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson blush. Yeah, he's the shit. And the thing is, he's a giant, and there's a time also when it comes to giants, like when you Giant Baba or Undertaker or Kane or Andre, where there was a time where they got old and they got slow and they weren't as good as they used to be. That's not even the case for Bad Luck Fale. He's just a big hunk of shit, and he's always has been. I can't remember a time when he was actually good. Right? Even if you go back 10, 15 years, I don't think he was actually good. AJ3 says the G1 is the reason why most of these guys come to America with bad knees, back, half crippled. Yeah, I mean, it's the New Japan style in general. These guys were beating the shit out of each other, taking the most hellacious neck bumps possible. And then they get into a lax environment and they look like they're moving in slow motion because usually they didn't beat themselves to shit, and there's nothing that they can do now physically. And it's sad comparing Logan Paul to Tongaloa. Yeah, that's an embarrassment because Tongaloa is bottom tier pro wrestling. It's extremely bottom tier. Okay, so my audio is back. Good. X9 says, we are not pro wrestling fans. We hate neck beards like you who weigh 600 pounds and care about Ishii. Shut your ass. I've never thought he was good either. He's just a boring, generic Japanese guy, man. That's it. Crossface Ray says Kenny Omega is the same genius behind the barbed wire death match. I thought that was a Moxley idea, but okay, he's an idiot if he came up with that idea. But then again, I think he just wanted to test himself. Omega is one of these guys that kind of, I don't want to say worships pro wrestling as a concept, but he does. He wants to test himself and try a bunch of different things, and I don't think so. I don't think it was a good idea. Jiren Sharingan says it's kind of funny. Logan Paul does pretty much the type of moves that the internet marks love. Yeah, he is that damn hated. That's why I think a lot of people are positive and up on Logan Paul, is because he does moves that the internet wrestling fans actually like. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at something real quick. I promise I did not plan to do this, so I'm gonna have to. But I'm about to look up Logan Paul's cage match rating. Let's see, and I want to see what they think his best match was. So I have to look at this. I have to see this. I just want to know. I'm just interested. A 7.1. That's his current rating. His lowest rated match was a 5.94, or that's the average rating. I'm sorry. How do I read this site? He's been wrestling for 2 years. 2 years. Whoa. Hold up. Let's go. Let's read some of these, because I'm seeing he's getting 3s for matches. He's getting 0s. Okay, the 0s are more fun than the 10s and the 8s and all that kind of stuff, because these things are hilarious. So let's go through some of the cage match ratings. So this is from February 11th. An absolute spot monkey with little understanding of the fundamentals, only interested in working a reduced schedule and appearing on select PLEs, just to be the spot monkey that he is. Oh, and he's a terrible person who only attracts negative drama. Wow. Somebody says has a 4. He's all right as a wrestler, but relies too much on his athleticism. His mic work is boring, and so is his character. Too bland of a heel character, where his whole gimmick is that he's just a prick, which obviously can work it for people, but it's just so bland. There's nothing special or interesting. I need Hunter to realize the heat he's getting isn't because he's a good heel. It's because people don't want him in WWE. Let me tell you, there's no difference. If you're a good heel, people don't want you around. He's got a 0.0. This is from February the 4th. Logan Paul is not a professional wrestler. He is exactly what people try to say as criticisms about actual high flyers and athletic performers. He just rehearses everything he does, and since he is obviously athletic, he can pull it off. But if you told him he has to have a match later tonight against someone, he would be lost without all the pre-planning and practice, because he's not a real professional wrestler. Also, an awful excuse for a heel. He only gets the reactions because he is a legitimate, repugnant, abhorrent human being who scams his young, naive fans and films dead bodies for content. He has chanced his way into the gig at WWE, as a company have their own skeletons, so it's no surprise they turn a blind eye to this awful excuse of humanity just so they can get some views on social media. This is unreal. Unreal. real. This is hate. Maybe I ought to downgrade what Kenny Omega was doing because this is prime hate right here. This is, mwah, this is, buddy. Maybe I ought to do this more regularly. Maybe I ought to just pick random wrestlers and read their cage match ratings to people. And only read the bad ones because the good ones are kind of boring. Here's another one. This is a 3.0. This came from February the 3rd. He's honestly starting to become overrated in the ring, which I never expected. No, he is not outstanding, but he is good, which is more than you can say for most outsiders. But that he is outsider. He's not and will never be an actual wrestler. There is only thing he can do better than anyone else in the business, and that is generating go-away heat. Unfortunately, WWE seems to mistake said go-away heat for a heel heat. He has zero character other than douchey YouTuber, and his only attribute as a wrestler is his in-ring ability, which is, again, overrated, and is really the only thing a little above average by regular wrestling standards. Hate. Ooh, it's hate. This one is from January the 29th, and it is a 0. Gave him a 0. Not a wrestler or a worker by any stretch of the imagination. It's like John Morrison said, if you scripted out a match move for move and then gave an athlete months to prepare for it, it would be great or at least decent. Logan is a douchebag influencer and couldn't care less about professional wrestling. Absolute joke. Also, his booking is very strange and confusing. Cage Match is forcing me to get to 700 characters because of retard wrestling fans who mindlessly attack $1 million entertainment company to defend another $1 million entertainment company. My fake wrestling is better than yours. So therefore, I'm having to ramble when I clearly and succinctly made my point in 300. Very annoying and tedious, very frustrating and aggravating. Quite interesting. So he rambled on because there's rules to this thing. But John Morrison is also a rehearsal guy. He's a spot monkey. This is very strange. Why is it all the spot monkeys coming out to talk about the spot monkey? Morrison is not much better than this guy. You know, like Morrison is a spot monkey too. God damn it! If somebody like Bret Hart was to come out and say, "Yeah, Logan Paul, that guy's a spot monkey," I'd be like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right." But Kenny Omega, come on. John Morrison, come on. Oh my God. Okay. This one is also a 0. This is from January 26th. He's a despicable piece of shit in real life. No, I don't know him personally. I just know about all the skeletons in his closet, such as becoming famous for filming a dead body for clout in Japan's suicide forest. That's how he made his name online, guys. You should not support this guy, and you should think less of WWE for giving this guy a platform that he truly doesn't appreciate. But I will say that he is natural in the pro wrestling ring for the most part. The reason he's such a good heel is because he's literally an evil person in real life. Do some research on his opinions and you'll see for yourself. If I had young kids who watch WWE, I would ban it in the household because of this guy. I'm losing more and more respect for WWE because of who they promote to their primarily young children audience. Why is this guy on TV? Wow. 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 Here's the crazy thing is everybody who's giving him zeros are still saying he's a good wrestler, which should eliminate the zeros because this is what you're supposed to be here to evaluate, right? You're supposed to be here to evaluate his in-ring talent, which you clearly say is above 0. So why are you giving him zeros? Because you don't like him personally, and that stands? Now, here's the thing. When you talk to people about cage match ratings, they completely ignore the fact that they could just not like you and give you a low rating. So that has nothing to do with your actual match quality. This is supposed to be the work rate site. And all I'm hearing about is how he's a crypto scammer and he filmed a dead body in a suicide forest and all this shit, right? None of that has to do with his ability to wrestle. Because all these people are looking at it and saying, oh, he has good matches, but he's having good matches, but he's incredibly athletic, but come on, man. How is that allowed to stick? I think his average would be much higher if you got rid of all these zeros that he clearly did not earn. Here's another zero. This one's from January the 7th. An awful human being. He is a con artist. He made of a suicidal man on YouTube. He's selling a drink that is dangerous to kids. He abandoned his pet pig that almost died as a consequence of being neglected. People should defend him. People who defend him should be ashamed. And WWE should be ashamed of promoting such a disgusting person. I am not interested in seeing him fight because he is not a wrestler, and putting him in a wrestling show is an offense to athletes who work their asses off on the mat 365 days a year. He deserves being in prison, and he is on Raw acclaimed by people instead. The epitome of horrible world we live in. Him holding a title belt is an offense to the sport in general, and he is way worse than David Arquette winning the WCW title. At least David Arquette is a decent guy and gave all his WCW salary to charity. This is unreal. 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 He got zeros for being a, quote, this one's from August of last year. Reprehensible human being, vastly overrated. I have no interest in watching him wrestling ever. Just wish he was kicked out of wrestling. All he can do is a few spots in a match, more or less interesting way than other better wrestlers. An absolute zero. I hate that I have to write about him since I have so little to say about him. Logan Paul has only wrestled 15 matches, and I hope that number does not go up. He gets way too much acclaim for so little. I do not mind that his matches are so planned out. Many great wrestlers have done that. But it's far too clear and obvious that this is the case, unlike those greats who make it seamless and fits well with more loose and unplanned wrestlers. He, on the other hand, does not accomplish this. He's got ones and zeros all up and through this thing. And everything that has a 1 or a 0 in it is attacking him as a person, which is, and one of these guys gave him a 9, and he only had one sentence that says, people are giving him low ratings because of the outside WWE stuff, controversies, etc. When talking about in-ring work, he's easily an 8 or a 9. I think that's too high. I think 7 is pretty solid. But I think that giving him a 7.1 overall, mostly because people don't like him, seems unfair to me. But this is also 309 people. Okay. It's the opinion of 309 people. But I gotta say, man, I'm entertained by this. I may go and do cage match ratings all the time now. This might be cheap and easy content, brother. I'm not gonna do this because it's kind of boring too. Especially if I just pop up and start doing this stuff all the time. But there might actually be some times where if I have to evaluate a talent, I'm just going to go into the cage match rating because that was a lot of heat. That was a lot of negativity, my guy. Oh my goodness, I singed my eyebrows in there. What a disaster. Degenerate Sharingan, it says, damn, I will never understand how the internet can be this parasocial superior goofball. I don't know, man. Like the whole Suicide Forest thing, I don't know if he even did that on purpose. Like the people are really holding that thing against him. I don't know if he did that on purpose. I don't know if it was an accident. I don't know that much about it. And it doesn't really matter either because it was a long time ago, you know? So, like a real long time ago. So long ago that you could actually say, okay, you know, kind of forgive him. But he did a crypto scam recently within the last 2 years. So maybe you don't want to just let him off the hook on that. You know, like I get it. I get it. Oh, what's this in my eye? All right, y'all. I appreciate everybody for stopping by, man. Thank you guys for your time. I want to punch this clock. Thank you guys. Talk to you guys later.